and welcome to our very second sketchbook tour. Beep, 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 beep. All right, so here's a little bit of the backstory. I just finished this sketchbook. This is a sketchbook that I have been using for roughly like 8 months or so. I remember very specifically, I started this one on Halloween of 2024, and I just finished it. It is June 2025. So this is a larger sketchbook than my last one, which is one of the big reasons why it took so much longer to fill than my last one. But I just, like, as of yesterday, finished drawing on all the pages, and so now I'm gonna take you guys through and we're gonna do a little sketchbook tour, and it's gonna be fun. First and foremost, let's talk about some of the stickers on the cover. Pretty much all of these are stickers that I've had like sitting around for years and years at this point. Some of them are newer, like this one I got when I went to Michigan last year. This is one of my own stickers. A lot of these, like little flowery ones, were from a sticker sheet that Ohuhu sent me with my last like sponsorship stuff they sent over. But some of these I've had for years and I don't remember who the artists are, unfortunately. But I was just slapping stickers that I had on this sketchbook and I had a grand old time. So let's get into it. So this is our opening page. Like I said, October 2024 to June 2025 is how long this one took. Got some more random stickers on here. I occasionally like to start sketchbooks with like swatching all of my supplies, and I did this one with just some of the tools and materials that I had at the time. I did keep adding stuff to it, and then I eventually ran out of space, and so I stopped doing it. But you can see like some of these are glittery, some of these are metallic. We're just having fun here. But now let's get into the meat of it. And this is the part where I need to say that if you are not familiar with my original characters in any way, shape, or form, you might get a little bit lost, because this sketchbook is roughly 95% drawings of my OCs and scenes from their various little stories. If you want a primer on that, I'll leave a link to the video where I kind of talk and give the basics on each of my characters. I'll like have it up in the iCard or something, or down in the description. I don't have time to go into their stuff today, aside from what's going to be present in the sketchbook, so if you want a primer, go watch that. If you're cool with being a little bit lost, let's continue. This is the very first page of my sketchbook, and I don't like it. We have a couple of Verities up here. We have a Lapis, and we have several Emerys. My 3 baby girls, my D&D characters. I was experimenting more with just like highlighters and drawing with some mechanical pencils with colored leads that I like. Just kind of vibing and having fun. This was a scene that I'd been wanting to draw for a while. This is Verity and Willow just kind of like hanging out. Just some scenes from Verity's backstory. And then over here, so this is a marker sketchbook, and at this point I hadn't used my alcohol markers in a really long time, and so I wanted to try and get back into it. I didn't do too much in this sketchbook, because what I've discovered is that if I'm gonna spend time on a more, quote, finished piece, I would rather it be a digital piece. And so like, I still, like using the markers, but for my sketchbook, I really enjoy doing just like loose kind of sketchy stuff. And so I didn't end up using the markers a lot. So this is one of the very few marker pieces in the sketchbook. But I did have some fun with the metallic paints. And this is like outlined in glitter pen. I don't know if you can tell. I use those a lot in the sketchbook because I like things that are shiny. Moving on. This spread is bad. This was me trying to figure out if I could use my paint pens to kind of cover up the marker bleed from previously. The answer is barely, if not at all. So I just did some little Verity doodles about it. This was a day I got some new art supplies in the mail. This was a little thumbnail for what ended up becoming this sticker. I got some new stickers, I got some new masking tape, all that fun stuff. This was actually, if you have watched my video about making characters with audience input, I had originally drawn Everett and Corin in different poses. I had like sketched them out, and I maybe had even already inked them before I realized that I didn't like the poses. And so this was me just trying to plan out some alternate poses. And then these two were the ones I ended up using for the final art in that video. Here we have some lapises. This is another marker piece. I was trying to experiment with like shading with different colors that wasn't just a darker version of the base color. So you can see I used a lot of pink in the skin tone here, and I really like how this turned out. And then we just have a couple of more little doodles. This is my absolute favorite way to sketch right now. So what I'll do is I'll use like some sort of colored material, either like highlighters, which is what these are, or colored mechanical pencils, which are another thing that I enjoy. And then I'll use brush pen to do the line art, because that way the brush pen, the line art is still very, very visible, but you can still kind of get the splash of color behind it for like all of the sketchy structured lines. And I just think that this looks very cool. And so this is what a majority of my sketchbook spreads end up being. And then I filled in the background with paint marker just because I am allergic to white space. Here we have some more lapis doodles. These are some scenes that I was just kind of brainstorming about, like what her first night would have been like, because she was staying with Agatha, but she has amnesia, she doesn't know what the heck is going on, and she's just very stressed. This was an attempt I made with, I can't remember which brand of paint marker, but I was trying to see if I could use this to, I believe, cover up the marker bleed through from this. And this worked a little bit better, but I'm not great at using paint markers still. These are some more balls. I was testing different ways of shading, different color combinations with shading. Another little lapis marker piece here. I really, really like this one, but I'm sad because my pens weren't 100% dry, and so the line art smudged in a couple of places. All right, this is me again trying to cover up marker bleed. I have some of my Mail Club stickers in here. I did some little journal entries. I used some like acrylic marker. I was just experimenting. I turned this kind of into a journaling page. Is whatever. And then this is some more lapis doodles, just again thinking about some of her like early days when she had just kind of woken up with her amnesia and didn't know what was going on. I drew her in a little maid outfit, kind of sort of little waitress outfit, because I thought it would be cute. I relate so hard to this. Oh no, customer service, and she's just nervous. This is probably my favorite drawing on this page. Baby girl. The next few pages are some scenes from our actual D&D campaign. I'm not gonna go too in depth on explaining exactly what these are, but basically, Lapis has another person living in her brain. We will talk about them later, and this guy, who is also this guy, this is like a disguise he wears, this is what he actually looks like, knows how to kind of bring out the other person, because him and Lapis's alter ego, whose name is Laz, we will talk about them, they are friends, they have some kind of connection, and this was a scene that we did in a session that I had so many brainworms about, I drew basically the entire scene over the next couple of pages. So this was the intro to that scene. I was trying to use like some glitter markers, I don't know if it turned out very well. These are some more scenes of just kind of like these two reuniting. This is Laz at this point. She still looks like Lapis because she's in her body, but it's complicated and weird, and I'm not going to go too into detail on it. Just know that sometimes Lapis is a different person, and we're just going to work with that. This is more from that same bit. This is Dave. He's a skull, and he's Lapis's friend, and he was very creeped out by everything that was happening in this scene. This is still Laz just kind of being like, you know, kind of piloting Lapis's body and just being like, ah, crap, things are happening. What's going on? Oh my God. Just saying a lot of stuff that didn't make any sense to anyone else who didn't know what was going on. And it was very tasty intrigue, and I loved it. Here we have some more verities, again with some scenes from our D&D campaign. I got some new pens today, so I swatched all of them out. So I have like some of the Ohuhu glitter markers and then the water-based markers they sent me. I think I drew this like around December-ish because that's when they sent me like a big box of stuff that I ended up playing with a whole bunch. I'm not explaining anything that's happening on this page except Verity Bad End. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. Listen, sometimes you just have to draw some emo shit, okay? Don't even worry about it. Anyway, here's more like Lapis and Laz and Phil and Dave shenanigans. So yeah, we have Laz here. You can tell the difference between who's like piloting, is how I've been saying, is that Laz has very different expressions from Lapis. You know, Lapis is a very like sweet, soft little baby. She gets frustrated sometimes, but she's very sweet and soft. Laz is just kind of a dick. And we love that for them. But this is just another scene from that, talking about the villain not knowing that Dave existed because at the time they had this big encounter with the big bad evil guy. Dave was under a blanket in his little bird cage. And Laz did find that very funny. There was like a whole scene about it. Again, more of the same. Like I said, this session gave me brainworms. And so I drew so many pages that, like, all of these pages have been from roughly the same D&D session. There was a lot that happened, specifically for my babyest baby girl. Just more of the same, more of the same. What sucks is that these are all out of order. This would have been, like, kind of one of the first pages. I should, like, reorder these when I do the printed version of the sketchbook. By the way, printed version of the sketchbook coming eventually. More details on that maybe at the end of the video. Stay tuned. Some more of the same. Just like, this is some dialogue from that session of Laz trying to figure out what exactly to do because their plans are unraveling and things are complicated, but she's still in Lapis's body and she's just like, fuck, I hate everything. Again, the brainworms. My God, how many pages did I do for this one session? This is just some more little Lapis. This is a separate little comic that I feel it's fun to point out. One of Lapis's things is that she is a performer, but she has stage fright, so her performances generally don't go that well. And so every time that she tries to perform, a fight breaks out or something bad happens. And I wonder who's instigating all of those fights. I wonder who's doing that. Anyway, some more Dave interrogations. This is Lapis being a baby. This was her just kind of like waking up after Laz took over, having no idea what the heck was going on. I was just like, I don't know, what? When did I get served tea? I don't remember. She's just a little baby and she's very confused. There's a lot of glitter pen on these pages. I love glitter pens! I can't help it. Okay, again, I got some new stuff in the mail. So I swatched all of them. These are like part of the packaging for all the little washi tapes I got. I kind of taped them in so you can flip through them. I love all of these. I got some new markers, I got some new stickers, I got some new stuff, and I was just swatching all of it. I was testing out some different types of markers. These are some of the new markers that Ohuhu sent me that I was just playing with. These were the paint markers. I did a little test Lapis doodle. She's very cute. I'm actually very fond of how this one came out. This is an Emery, and then the rest of these are just kind of random characters that I just kind of drew. This was some random studies I did once again to try and cover up marker bleed. It didn't work very well. I was just playing around with arm posing. But then here we have some Lazuli nonsense. Lazuli, from a later session where usually if Laz gets activated, they only have like 5 minutes where they're in control, and then control will switch back to Lapis. And then this was the first night that did not happen. And they basically spent 8 hours pretending to be asleep to not be suspicious and freaking the hell out about why haven't I switched back yet? Why haven't I switched back yet? What's going on? Oh shit. It was very funny in the moment, but again, I understand that these are not going to hit as hard unless you're in that campaign. I got more new markers! This was just around the time that I was getting so much new stuff. Copic actually sent me a full set of their Acrio markers, and so I swatched them all here, and I took some notes on them. I took like some pros and some cons of them. I tested them against some of the other stuff that I used. I haven't used these too much, but I do like them. I think they're interesting. I just wish that they were either like, I want to see them come out with some brush markers because I really like those more than these are all like 0.7 fine nibs. Some more Lapis! Again, just bits from these sessions. There was one moment where Lapis kind of realized there was some kind of switcheroo happening that she didn't have any control over. And so she was like, we need to come up with some kind of code phrase for the other party members so you guys can tell if I'm the one in control or not. We spent several minutes, and the phrase we eventually decide on is that someone asks Lapis what her favorite song is, and then she has to reply, I am the celery queen. And if she does not respond with that, then she is an imposteur. I don't know why we settled on that. I don't remember, but it's very funny. And then this was another thing that Lapis did. She was like, I need to interrogate this other person who's controlling me. So I'm going to use this journal that I got, and I'm going to write down a whole bunch of questions. And then I'm going to write the password for this magic locking journal on my arm so that the other person will know the password. And then what ended up happening is Laz woke up and just saw the password written on her hand and had no idea what to do with it. And then didn't end up responding to any of the questions in the journal because how was she supposed to know? Just shenanigans. I love it. We have some Verities. At this point, I had been really itching to draw Verity with the glitter markers that I had because she's got like her little crystal horns and stuff. Let me see if I can... Yes, it's very, very shiny. And so I drew this piece very specifically to kind of like render the crystals with the glitter markers. These are some scenes from her campaign. We fought a bunch of jellyfish and she almost died. It was so fine. I colored these in with just like some other markers that I had found and that I was playing with. I believe I used mostly the Tombos for these, but I'm not sure. It's been a while. We have some emeries over here. Baby girl got wings in a session at one point, so she's not a tiefling, she's a full devil girl, and she has wingies, and now she can never sleep on her back again. And then I was also testing, I used the Copic Acreo markers here to like do the little highlights in her hair, and so I was kind of experimenting with that and how it looked. I think it's cute. Okay, this is, I think, the one instance of fan art in this sketchbook. I'd been watching Dandadan, and I love these two. They're very cute, and I like them, and I tried drawing them from memory, and I missed a couple of details, but it's whatever. It's a sketchbook. We're having fun. This is Phil. He is an NPC from my Lapis game, and I kind of wanted to figure out how I thought he looked. This is what Laz actually looks like. And then this is what Laz looks like when they're piloting Lapis. I'm not gonna tell you exactly what their connection is between these two, because that's spoilers for the novel that I'm eventually gonna write about these characters. And so I'm gonna keep that under wraps for right now, but just know that like, this is what Laz actually looks like. And you will see more of them as we continue through this sketchbook. This is like Laz and Phil just hanging out and being buddies. A couple of more just like little scenes. This was actually a scene from the campaign where Laz had to confront one of the other members of the party who did not know that the switcheroo had happened. And they were just like, I have to act like this sweet innocent little baby. Just smile, act natural. And Laz is not good at smiling. It's so awkward. All right, this is more scenes from a later session where Dave was trying to explain to Lapis what was going on, and then Laz took over and was trying to do a tree stump, and like the other party members were interrogating her, trying to figure out if she was the real Lapis or not, and they asked about the code phrase and she didn't know how to answer, so that's the imposter. And then this was the name drop that finally went out, is that the villain was like, Agent Lazuli has gone rogue and must be eliminated on sight, and that's when everyone that was the first time that the name Lazuli had been dropped in the campaign, and I was very excited, so I had to commemorate it by including it in the sticker. This is Laz being a baby. So the party never got to see this side of Laz, but Laz is just like, I want to be cute so bad, and it just does not suit them at all. Does not suit them at all. And so I tried drawing some cute Lazes, and it just does not work. You try putting a bow in their hair, precious baby. And then Phil's just like, yeah, that doesn't look good on you. And then we have a Lapis that I rendered with some glitter markers, and then we have just some assorted other doodles down here. I drew this the night I finished playing Silent Hill 2 on stream. And that game was so much sadder than I expected it to be. I'm laughing because I'm in pain. But yeah, like I didn't know what to expect going into that game, aside from that it was a very popular horror game. And so when I played the remake on stream, I thought it was gonna be like more horror focused. And then you get to the end and it's just fucking sad in my poor heart. And I was just like, I need to take these emotions and I need to draw my blorbos about it. So I drew some sad emo ass rodents. If you don't know why he's sad, go watch that primer video that I linked earlier. It'll tell you all the details. Basically, the love of his life fucking died, and then he was depressed for 200 years about it. Yay! And then we have some Verity pages, Verity and Pals. These are just like some little scenes. In the campaign, we actually were able to get two of Verity's dead friends to come back to life by sheer random happenstance. I was not expecting that to happen even a little bit. When we started the session that this took place in, it was such a nice surprise and things just happened and I was so happy I had to draw it. This was my attempt at a Verity with paint markers, but I didn't really have the right colors for it, so it looks kinda weird. We're moving on. I remember very specifically, I drew these on Christmas. I drew these like snuggled up at my parents' house on like Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. These I drew with those colored mechanical pencils. I drew some Lapises and some Lazulis. I wanted to draw the two of them together, and I love them so much. They're so cute. I don't know how often we're ever gonna see them side by side like this, but they're cute and fun, and I like them. This is my favorite random little doodle, is using my scary dog privileges to walk at night, and then Laz is the scary dog. I love them. And then I have some Verity and Rodens being all cute. I used some of my new stickers that I had. These are like little crystal gem stickers, and I think they're very pretty and they're little hearts. These are some more scenes from a campaign. We finally got Verity's friend Darius to come back to life, and he was described as wearing just a very slutty, like, loose-fitting robe, and his hair was all wavy because he hadn't straightened it fresh out of reincarnation. And I was just like, I need to draw this scruffy-ass man immediately, so I did. And then there's him and Mira, and then this is just a little snippet from that scene. He had, like, a voiceover coming on. He's, like, responding to all of the other, like, old party members. He's like, oh, yes, Mira, my love. Oh, yes, Willow. Broden's just short stack. I laughed very hard. I got sent some Copic markers. Copic sent me some more things, and the colors were pretty limited. They sent me just like a handful of like primary colors and some gray tones, and so this was me experimenting with them. We have a Lapis, we have a Lazuli, we have a Verity, but the set I was sent had no purple, and so I went and dug out some of my old Copics from high school, and I had purples of those. And then I also drew a Milo, and I don't know who this is, I just wanted to draw something floofy. Marker bleeds, and so I used this page to experiment with drawing some Pokemon for an upcoming video. You'll see that page in a little bit. This is an NPC from our other D&D campaign. Her name is Vajra. She's cute. This is the only time I think I've drawn her. Don't worry about that. Anyway, this is a little comic I did with a scene from Verity's D&D campaign. She was calling Roden to be like, hey, I have a surprise, and the surprise is that 2 of their 3 friends had been brought back from the dead after like 100 years, and Roden was like, oh, I think I know what the surprise is, but if you're planning a proposal, you probably should wait until after we do this other thing. And Verity had to be like, Roden, that is not what the surprise is. And it was so awkward, but so funny. I love these 2. I could draw them forever, honestly. Okay, this is another little scene. Again, just most of this sketchbook is gonna be scenes from D&D campaigns, and you need to be okay with this. This is Mira and Darius, my beloved baby Blorbos, finally reuniting after both of them had been dead for a really long time. And I just wanted to draw their little reuniting scene because it was so cute and I love them. Here's some more scenes from that very same session. This is something where it's like we went and found Verity's corpse from when she originally died, because we had to go get like her suit of armor. We had to go get some other stuff. We had to get her bones, but we also got some other stuff in the process. And we had to go into a stink pit, and Verity was very upset about having to go into a very stinky hole. Very stinky cave full of corpses. And she was like, oh, I smell so bad. This was the first page I drew after kind of a long break. So this was the last page I had drawn in the sketchbook for a while. And then I think I didn't draw for a couple of weeks, because what you need to know about this sketchbook is that this sketchbook, one of the reasons it took so long to fill is because around this time I was working on this sketchbook, I moved into a new house. I had to buy a new house. There were like 2 weeks where I was on the phone 4 hours a day, and it was a nightmare. I was in hell. And when you're that stressed out, it does not lend to giving you a lot of brain energy for drawing. So I was trying to kick my ass out of art block, and it wasn't working. So I drew the party, and I hate these drawings, but it's fine. We're moving on. This is just some more of the Verity squad. It's the members of Verity's party combined with who they are the most similar to in the actual like player character party is these 3 drawings. And then we have Verity and Roden, which I like to call the Great Situationship, because they're awkward. This was another little scene from our D&D campaign. Someone's like, Verity, I heard you're an Oathbreaker now. And Verity was like, well, no, I still have my oath, but I broke someone's oath. Don't even worry about what happened. It's so fine. It's so normal. Pokemon! If you will remember my brainstorming the perfect Pokemon game video, this was the spread that I drew using some markers that Ohuhu sent me. So I just drew that in the sketchbook I was currently using. And so yeah, we have some babies here. This was another like big dramatic scene from Verity's D&D campaign that I never finished drawing, just because it was like such a meaningful scene. I didn't know how to render it properly, but at the very least I drew just like some little bits from it. Which is Verity holding a hammer about to smash solid granite because she's upsetty spaghetti about her boyfriend being a doomer. And then we have, I wanted to draw some little baby Verity and Rodin. So like here's itty bitty Rodin, just itty bitty baby. Dwarves age really slowly. And so this is him like the rough equivalent of like 10 to 12 years old, but in reality he's like 20. And then this is little baby Verity. This is about the ages that they were when they first met. And so here's like a slightly younger Verity. She's probably like 15 here. I was just kind of doodling. I was feeling things out. These were some more just like little doodles. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on camera, but I tried to draw what I kind of mentally imagined Verity's family forge looking like. Like there's kind of a customer service area up here, and then you descend, and then that's actually a little workshop area. And so I just have some little doodles. I have some Verities, I have some Willows. I have another page of like younger Rodin, just kind of doing some character explorations of him. I have some stickers. This was another scene where we were examining like kind of Darius's little tower, and we found out that he had a room. He's like, this is my room that I go into where I like to pretend that all of my friends are still alive, and I like to hang out, and it relieves some of the loneliness. And the rest of the now living again party discovered this and was very upset, but also the illusion version of Rodin was very out of character, and Darius is like, he needed an attitude adjustment. Oh, these boys, they do not get along. This was not an actual scene, but this was a conversation I liked to imagine happened in character at some point, where after Mira was brought back to life and she wasn't just a ghost following Verity around and watching everything that she did, she was like, hey, so you proposed to Verity like 2 weeks after she came back from the dead. What the heck, man? What was that? So there was a very awkward proposal scene earlier on in the campaign, and Mira finally called him out. I was like, hey, now that I'm alive and I can tell you that that was cringe to your face, that was cringe, dude. It was very funny, and I had the mental image and I had to draw it. This are some sketches of Lapis's campaign. At some point, Lapis and Laz were finally able to talk to each other, very Jekyll and Hyde style, where they could see each other in reflections. And so there was this one section where like the party was just in this crystal cave, and Laz saw her own reflection in that crystal cave, but the reflection didn't match up with what she was actually doing, and then realized, oh, beans, this is the other person who's like occasionally taking control of my body. And so she like started interrogating. There was like a whole scene, and the two of them were trying to have a conversation without any of the other party members noticing. And yes, I did do glitter pen for like all of the purple on this page, and I like glitter pens! Just some more little snippets from that conversation, some more little buddies, just some more Lapis and Laz. Here's how you can tell them apart. Lapis is a shy baby, and Laz just emanates an aura of rage and annoyance at all times. That's how you tell the difference between the two. This was another scene of that campaign. Lapis was like kind of trying to get information out of her own reflection, Laz. And was like, hey, this weird thing that you went and dug up somebody's grave about, I bet this is important to you. What if I try and smash it? And she rolls a nat 1 to smash it. And then another party member tried to help. He's like, Lapis, are you trying to break this? And Lapis was like, yeah, can you help me smash it? And so they tried to break it, and instead they got a voicemail because it was a sending stone. And so she's like, oh, well, who's Phil? And so at that point, it was just a very contentious scene, and I love both of them so much. Okay, so this is the last set of pages I did before C2E2. At this point, I had just finished moving into my new house. There was like a 4-week gap between these two spreads. And I had just moved into my new house, and I finally had some downtime, and I was like, I am feeling so like pent up. I haven't drawn in weeks. I need to draw something right now. And so I just drew a whole page of Laz, and I drew a whole page of Lapis, and this was right before C2E2. And this is gonna be important, because if you will remember from my C2E2 video where I talked about this, C2E2, while I was there, that was when I came up with the idea for the novel that is going to have these two as the main characters. And I'm gonna have a video coming out roughly around the same time that this video goes up. I'm gonna have a video introducing that concept in a more formal way. I'll have that linked somewhere. But I want to show you guys something. I want to show y'all the power of brain rot, because this is how much of this sketchbook I filled over the roughly 4-5-ish months that I had been using this sketchbook up until this point. And then Past these spreads, C2E2 happens, I get the idea for the novel, and then the rest of this sketchbook is development for that idea, and I filled this in like less than 2 months. So we have 4 months with no brainworms, and then 2 months with brainworms. The power of brainworms, everybody. Anyway, let's move along. So these were like the last little drawings I did before C2E2. And then here's all my C2E2 doodles. So, fun fact, and I think I mentioned this in the C2E2 video, is when I was younger, the very first comics I ever did, the way I got into comics originally was I loved to draw little like sketchbook comics like this, just based off of silly, stupid things that my friends did during middle school. And I haven't done like little auto-bio comics like this in years. And so I got back into it at C2E2 because the friend who was helping me at that con was a friend that I've had since middle school. And so she remembered, you know, all of those old comics I used to do. And just something about being around a person who was familiar with that stage of my life just made me want to draw all the, like these little auto-bio comics again. And so I just kept doing it for all of C2E2. And so the next several spreads are just events that happened at C2E2. So like this was something that happened that night, like the first night we went and got pizza. This is my loud ass fanny pack. We went to Subway at 8 o'clock in the morning and we were like, why is Subway open so early on Friday? And then Saturday we were there getting Subway at 8 a.m. Just a couple of other little scenes. This is me. It's like, wow, we made so much money yesterday. I'm gonna spend so much of this on sticker sheets for my journals. And then my helper Erin at some point came up with this idea that what if it was Five Nights at Freddy's, but it was Buc-ee's? So she was very amused by it. I don't know where this came from, but she was just cracking herself up with this mental image for like an entire day of the con. Some more little auto-bio comics. These are swatches of some washi tape that Holly got me. Thank you, Holly. Not all of these are ones that I ended up getting. I did ask, he's like, oh, these little cat ones are so cute. Can I like have some swatches of that just to fill out the rest of the sketchbook spread? But most of these are ones that I still have and actively use. And then I believe this is the last page of C2E2 Doodles. This is my little comic being mad about why Jurassic Park 2 is so bad. We went to go see the bean, so I had to draw the bean. And then I believe that's the last spread of C2E2. So everything past this, well, almost everything, not everything, but almost everything after this is I had an idea for a novel where I stick a whole bunch of my existing characters together and I make them best friends and I squish them together like little Barbie dolls. And so I was drawing a bunch of character interactions for characters who had never interacted before. So here we have some Lapis and some Daves and some Zephyr. There's my heckin' boy. I hadn't drawn him in years at this point, and I was like, it is time. It is my man's time to shine. We have some more just little Lapis doodles, and then just a couple little like journal comics, just me being stressed out after C2E2 trying to get into my new house and unpack and trying to catch up on all this work I missed during the process of moving, and it sucked. I was buried under a pile of work for like a month and a half and just desperately trying to catch up and not give myself worse burnout. It was a nightmare. I survived, but I complained the whole time. I was experimenting with potentially giving Zephyr some differently shaped horns, and so I was just drawing him a bunch and just experimenting with how I wanted to draw him because I hadn't drawn him in so long. Here's some more Zephyrs. This is a specific little scene I have in mind from the novel. Don't worry about it, I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's my two babies. These were some little auto-bio comics I did when my brother and his girlfriend Claire and I all went to the Ren Fair together. So I bought an outfit at the Ren Fair and I drew my little outfit, and then we were walking around and I kept saying, brother, what do you want from the Ren Fair? And anytime I asked him that, he would just go, sword. He's like, I have one mission and it is sword. And so at some point near the end of the day, he did finally buy a sword. He bought, I believe it was Aragorn's sword from Lord of the Rings. And then he was carting it around all day, and it was so heavy because it was just made for display. It was just like, I love my sword. And then we ended up staying a little later than we originally intended because we wanted to see the falconry show. And we just kept repeating this joke of that one TikTok audio that was like, I would like to see the baby, do-do-do-do, but we replaced it with, I would like to see the birdies. And we just kept repeating that line over and over again because we thought it was funny. And then while we were, waiting for the falconry show to start, we were talking about what our favorite birds are. And Claire's like, I like ravens. And then the last bird they brought out was like this huge African raven. And I looked over at Claire and she was making this face and I thought it was very cute, so I drew it. But then after the Ren Fair, it's time to go back into Blorbo Town because we've got some Lapis and some Zephyrs. This was my attempt to de-tiefling Felix. I don't know if I like it, but she is cute. This was around the time that I realized, oh yes, sure, I can shove Lapis and Zephyr together, and that makes a lot of sense for the two of them to work together as kind of partners in crime because their stories have a lot of overlap and they work together very similarly. And then at one point I was on a walk listening to my playlist and I realized, you know who else actually works really, really well together? Laz and Felix. And I realized, oh my god, Laz would absolutely have a crush on Felix. And so I just wanted to draw some very cute doodles of Laz crushing on my little pink baby. Again, I was experimenting with maybe she's not a tiefling, maybe she's just an elf instead. And so you will see some dehorned Felixes throughout the rest of these pages. Felix's design is still kind of in flux right now. And so you will see her design changing a little bit for the rest of the sketchbook. But I have just like some little hypothetical scenes from the novel, and Laz is like, this crush is totally unrequited and I cannot hide it, and Felix can control herself a little better, but she's also like, oh, you're cute when you're embarrassed kind of thing. Laz, just being spooky assassin. These were some doodles of the May Mail Club set because I was trying to thumbnail out exactly what I wanted to do for like the little farming AU that I drew. At this point, I remember very specifically, I was in a very bad mood the day I drew this, and I was feeling very art blocked, but it was my day off, and I was like, I want to be drawing, but I don't know what to draw. So I just drew a lot of faces. I just drew like a whole grid of my little VTuber mascot avatar just making various little expressions and faces. And I love this spread. I think it's very cute, but I have bad memories associated with it because I was having a very bad day when I drew it. I tried giving Lapis some different hairstyles. Oh, also I should mention that like the last couple pages of these were drawn with like the Ohuhu water-based markers, because I had gotten some of those in the mail around this time. And so I was experimenting with sketching with a very light version of the color and then shading and line arting with a darker version of those same markers with like the fine liner tip. And so I was just kind of having some fun and experimenting. And so this is some Lapis with different hairstyles. I was just having fun and wanting to experiment. And then I realized at some point, well, if Zephyr's gonna be in this story, then Storm also needs to be in this story, which means I need to figure out how I'm gonna draw him, because I hadn't drawn this guy. Aside from the one drawing I did of him for that video I did a while back, I've not drawn this guy in years. And so I was just trying to, kind of rework his design. And the way that I rework a design for a character is I just draw them a bajillion times. And so I drew a little scene of Lapis and Storm interacting. Okay, and then this is about the time... Okay, so here's the thing. I was vaguely familiar with the concept of Epic the Musical for a long time before this. I had heard some of the songs on TikTok. I had a couple of the songs saved to various character playlists. I didn't know the original context of those songs. I just knew that, oh, this song from a musical reminds me of my Blorbo, actually. And so I think I had Just a Man saved because it works really well as like a Sage song. And I had Open Arms saved because I have an entire animatic to that song planned for some of my other Blorbos, and I'm not going to go into detail on it because it's cast-off spoilers. But one of these days I will draw that, and you guys will all get emotional, and you'll be mad at me for giving you emotions. And then at some point, I heard some other songs from the soundtrack, and I was like, oh, these are also fun. I should probably just sit down and listen to the entire soundtrack from that series, and just find all the bangers. This is around the time that I was doing that. I have done so much just keeping my favorite songs from Epic on loop while I take my brainstorming walks around my neighborhood and just kind of brainstorming stuff for this story and thinking about the characters to the tune of several Epic the Musical songs. So you will see some references in these coming pages. But for this one, these are my very gay suffering doodles of just Laz pining for Felix and being emo, and it's just, I can't explain the context because it's spoilers, but don't just unrequited crushing on this cute little baby. That's all you really need to know. And then some more lines from the same song. They're slightly altered to fit the narrative of the actual novel. Height comparison, some more Lazalis, just playing around with different hairstyles. This was me once again trying to experiment with like different horns for Zephyr. I was like, maybe I don't want to give him like these spirally horns because these are a pain to draw. So what if I tried and experimented and give him some different horn shapes? And so that's basically what this is. I only inked the ones that I really enjoyed. I kind of liked this one, but I don't end up sticking with it because it just doesn't, the vibes are off. The vibes are different and I didn't like it as much. We have some more Lazes being emo. I love drawing this baby so much. There's some more Epic the Musical references. If you imagine Athena as the villain, the very first part of Warrior of the Mind works so well for Laz. It gives me brain worms. I have so many worms. Does anyone want some of these worms? I have so many. This is just a little hypothetical scene between Zephyr and Lapis. I have some more little Lapis doodles. This is just kind of a mixed, weird page. And now we have some more characters. This is a character from one of the one-shots I was writing for Verity's story that I never finished. I don't know if he's actually going to be a character. I just kind of had a vision and I wanted to try and get it on paper and I didn't really succeed. I don't know if this character is actually going to be in the Verity novel whenever I write it, but sometimes you just got to try and get the brainworms on paper. And then this is another character I will go ahead and tell you now. This is concepting out for Vesper Noblesse II, and I'm gonna stay a little vague on details about who she is, but she's not gonna be in the Lapis novel. She's gonna be in the Verity novel later. The Verity novel is gonna come after the Lapis novel because the Verity novel is more complicated and I gotta figure out exactly how I wanna do it. But she will be a character in that one, and she's a baby. I had just like a mental image of this character and I would not rest until I figured out kind of what she looked like. And this is pretty similar to the final version. I had this mental image of what if I gave her little Sailor Moon buns? And then the rest of the design just came together super quickly after that. And so I just spend several pages drawing her and just kind of brainstorming her. This is like some little magic item ideas that might make it into the book someday. Okay. And now is Blorbo hours. So if you guys have seen my various drawings of my guy Leon, this next several pages was me trying to figure him out. So Leon's role in the story, I'll talk about this in the video where I officially introduce the novel and kind of the ideas I'm running with. I say in that video that I wasn't comfortable for the novel version specifically using anyone else's characters just because it made me really antsy. And so what I wanted to do was any important NPCs that were present in the original D&D campaign, I kind of wanted to rework them so that they were my own original characters so I would feel more confident writing them without stepping on the creative visions of other people who were coming up with these characters. And so Leon kind of spawned out of Phil, this other character from a while back. Let me find a page with him in it. This guy over here. So they're kind of filling similar roles within the story. There he is. They're kind of filling similar roles within the story, but I did kind of rework him to fit this new narrative, this new story idea, this new universe better. Because Phil had a lot of other side stuff going on that wouldn't really work in the new narrative. And also it's just like, I kind of want to just like, if I'm gonna make him a new character anyway, I might as well get really self-indulgent with it. So this was kind of my process of designing Leon. So we have some stuff that's a little bit closer to how Phil looked originally. And then you can just watch over the next couple of pages as he slowly but surely congeals into the weird scruffy guy that I eventually got to call my guy. You can see we're getting really close here. Once I kind of figured out this like weird flippy mullet, it was all downhill from there. I figured out his hair and then we just kind of kept going. And by this point, we're really close. I think I drew this one and I'm like, there he is. There he is. That's him. I talked about this on a stream recently, but one of my things is even when I'm just writing, even if I'm just doing prose, and there's not going to be any pictures, I still need to know what a character looks like to write them because their visual vibe is so important to how I write them and how their personality kind of takes place. And so once I hit this, I was like, oh, there he is! That's my guy right there. And so I just drew, we have several more pages of him. His glasses were originally bigger and I made them smaller. This was a comic that I drew. This is the first time, well, not the first time. This, I think, was the first time I drew like him and Laz interacting. This was another little scene that I just kind of had in my head where he's expositing about some world building and being spooky in the process. And there's my man, there's my little guy. One of the reasons I kept making his glasses smaller is because when I drew him with big glasses, he looked too much like Sage. And I was like, oh no, we can't have that. And so I smallened the glasses. We also have some Indrid Adventure Zones in here just because similar vibes. He was one of the characters I was kind of pulling from for inspiration, but I just drew a whole bunch of Leons and I was having fun just kind of fleshing this character out and vibing with him. This is a little 2-page comic I did featuring a scene from the novel that I kind of came up with, him talking to Agatha, who is Lapis's employer slash kind of caretaker, boss, grandmother, person. Just a little scene between the two of them. And then I wanted to draw some of the characters interacting, so I drew some Leons with Lapis and him just kind of emoting. You ever make up a new character and then they're just all you want to draw for days and days and days? So here we have some more Epic the Musical references with like Laz and Leon. We have some Lapis and Leon, just a little comic relating to the two of them. This pendant that Lapis wears keeps coming up. I wonder if that's like an important thing in this story. I don't know. Who could say? Who could say? It's a mystery to everyone. Another just like little hypothetical scene between Laz and Leon of just like kind of the mental journey of figuring something out about the scruffy man here. And Leon's just like, okay, you're gonna need to explain the mental journey you just went on because that face worries me. And I'm not elaborating on what this is. You'll just have to wait for the book to come out. We have some more Leons. I remember around this time I was considering like kind of his backstory and where he came from. So there's baby form and then just kind of him being nostalgic over baby form. This was me trying to take some notes on like the magic system for the story. I was trying to brainstorm, and Zephyr's very involved in the magic system because he uses magic a whole lot. Zephyr is a wizard or like a mage or something, and so he uses a lot of magic. He probably is the person in the narrative who uses it the most, so I really had to figure out exactly how he uses it specifically. These are just like some more hypothetical scenes, just some more drawing of these characters. We have Lapis on the roof with like the little stained glass flowers, like that print I eventually finished drawing. We have some more Leon doodles, just like him kind of talking, some little itty bitty scenes and stuff. This is a height comparison between Leon and Laz, and Leon's like, why is this guy so freaking tall? Why is he huge? Why is he enormous? But honestly, Leon's not that tall. He's probably just like average guy height. He's maybe like 6'2" or something. He's tall, but he's not like freakishly tall. Laz is just itty bitty. But Laz just looks at him and is like, why are you such a tall freak? And Leon's just like, you're just tiny. I'm not tall. You are just like a tiny, petite little person. And then I drew some more Leons. At some point I realized that Leon is very extroverted, and you know who else is extremely extroverted? Willow. And then I was like, you know, there is a possibility that these two could have interacted at some point in the past, and it was just like, oh no. These two characters can never meet because they will not stop talking with each other. They will just be chatterboxes for days and days and days. And then we have a Darius and Amira over here being like, so when do we cut them off? Because we have to leave. And it's just the two of them just talking forever in circles, and I adore them so much. I like making characters who are social because I'm really bad at being social, and so coming up with characters who are really good with people and you just really like talking is kind of cathartic for me because that's not me, but I wish it was. Anyway, so now we have just a couple of doodles. These are some scenes with Laz, and this is their meet cute. This is their meet cute, is that Laz tries to stab Leon. So normal. I love them. And then we have a little Leon with some glitter marker flames. I don't know how well that's gonna shine on camera. This is another character who was an NPC who's not gonna work in the new novel because the world has changed too much from the original D&D setting. So I'm like, I basically just have to start from scratch with this character. And so again, part of figuring out a character's vibe is figuring out what they look like. And so I just needed to sketch her, I needed to draw her a lot. And so the next couple of pages are just me trying to figure her out. And so I drew all these in my fountain pen that I have, that I actually used to take notes for Lapis's campaign. I just had it and I wanted to draw with it. This is me just trying to figure this character out. We have some more various assorted scenes from the novel, all just kind of squished together into the same page. We have some Leons, we have some Lapises, we have some scary, still unnamed lady. She's still cooking, we'll come back to her later. There's some more scary lady. Again, I don't have a name for her yet. But I've just been calling her Scary Lady. Don't even worry about it. And here's some more of her. And here's some more epic references because Get in the Water is very much a song of her talking to Laz, and it makes the brainworm start raving in my head. Also, I got a new fountain pen, and so I inked all of these with that new fountain pen. And I came to the conclusion that I don't know if I like drawing with a fountain pen. Or at the very least, I don't know if I like doing my usual style, because when you draw with a fountain pen on top of highlighter, the ink kind of bleeds a little bit more, and the inconsistency kind of annoyed me. But I don't know, I was playing around. We have some more Storm drawings. Again, I was like, I need to figure out how I'm going to consistently draw this guy. And so I was just kind of trying to experiment with what his hair looks like, what his face looks like, and how I do that is I just draw the same character over and over and over again. This is a dumb little comic that I came up with Leon and Laz, and just like a conversation that they would have had at some point. I know you don't need me to tell you this, but your boss sounds like she sucks. Hey, do you want me to do something about it? And at this point, Lazuli is just like, why is that the first thing you jump to? And this word is not the word it's not a word you think it is. It's a very dumb word, but it's specific enough to Leon that it is kind of spoilers for what his deal is, so I did censor it. But I realized after I did that, the censoring it makes it look worse. Don't worry about it. It's just because it's so specific to him and what he does that it's spoilers, and so I blocked it out, and I'm like, oh, people aren't... whatever. This still makes me laugh, though. I love the two of them. I love Leon just casually suggesting some whack shit, and Laz is just like, why are you like this? What the fuck? I love them, Your Honor. They're fun to me. So around this point, I was still waffling over how I wanted to design Felix, and I was reminded that Felix's very original design, I was planning on giving her horns more like this. The original concept for Felix, she had more like deer type horns, or like kind of I don't know if they have a specific name, but like the specific type of dragon horns that you see in like Eastern media where they're like kind of blunt. I've seen them a lot in like Genshin characters and stuff like that, but like those kind of style of horns, I don't know if they have a name, but that was kind of the original intent with Felix before I settled on kind of like the swoopy lightning bolt shaped horns that she has in a lot of my older drawings. And so I decided to kind of experiment with these. I colored the horns in with glittery gold gel pen, because Felix loves gold. And then this is the start of my Momocon doodles. So there's not as many as C2E2 just because I was busier at this show. One of the funny things that happened is I walked into Sarah and Athena's house, and then I went outside to get something. I had been at their house for less than 5 minutes, and I broke the doorknob off their door with my raw, incredible strength. It turns out it was already broken and I just didn't know, but it still startled me, and I was just like, oh my god, I broke their house and I've been here for 5 minutes. I drew the dude in the seat next to me on the plane who was just full shrimp mode the entire flight. I just drew some other funny little interactions between me and my friends. I drew some Felix and Laz interacting. I drew some more Leons. I was thinking about cats for some reason, and whenever I hang out with Sarah and Athena, I think about all the mobile games they got me into, and I was thinking about Arknights, even though I haven't played it in a really long time, and there's so many cute, like, cat characters in Arknights, but a lot of them are based specifically on big cats, like tigers and lions and leopards and shit. And so I was like, what if I got really self-indulgent and I had like an entire like fantasy race in my novel that was all like cat characters, like cat girls and cat boys and stuff, but they're all based on like big cats. And I didn't end up going anywhere with this. that idea is still in the back of my mind. I might come back to it later, but I drew this little snow leopard girl as just, I was having thoughts. I love snow leopards. They're probably my favorite big cats. I like how big their tails are, and they're very cute. I drew just some more dumb, silly comics about stuff that happened at MomoCon. This is Sarah's rabbit with human eyes, and she keeps it in her bathroom, and it's so haunted. It's so cursed. I had to draw it, but like my drawing does not even get close to... I'm just gonna pop a picture up on screen, and then you guys can look at it, because it's highly cursed. And I drew some more Leons because he was very in my brain at this point. Just like little conversations, little quotes that I would imagine him saying in the book. Some more Leons, some more things that happened at MomoCon. We were vibing to car alarms in the parking garage, and then I realized far too late that I had left a very important part of my display at home, and I panicked. These are all drawings that I did at the table. There was at one point... Okay, so I need to explain this comic, and I can already hear the comments now. So I need to preface this by saying, I don't know jack shit about Cookie Run, but apparently so many artists that I follow online are so into this game, and they just started crawling out of the woodwork and posting fan art, and I'm like, is everyone else into this but me? And so at the con, I was flanked on either side by what I heard were like the only two other artists in the entire MomoCon artist alley who were selling Cookie Run fan art. And at some point, a Cookie Run cosplayer is like, you know, shopping at my booth, and I compliment them on their cosplay, and we just start up a casual conversation. I was like, man, I feel like so many people who I like follow online are so into this game, and I keep hearing the craziest things about this Cookie Run game. Do I just need to play it? I feel like I just need to play it at this point just so I can understand what the hell everyone is posting about. And they're like, if you play the game, I will give you a bracelet. And I was like, deal, sign me up. I love free trinkets. And so I'll post a picture of, I don't have a picture of the cosplayer, but I did take a picture of the bracelet they gave me, and I kept joking with my friends that I have entered into a dark pact because I got a bracelet from a Shadow Milk cosplayer. And it was very funny to me, and I did wear it for the rest of the weekend, and now it's on my fanny pack with all my assorted trinkets, some of which are related to dark pacts, and some of which are just things that people give me at cons. I put them all on my business fanny pack, and I say that it's for luck. Anyway, so this was a reaction that one of my friends who came by the table is like, did anything happen while I was gone? And I was like, yeah, I entered into a dark pact and got a free bracelet. Don't worry about it. And then aside from that, I was experimenting once again. I am still trying to decide how I want to draw Zephyr's horns, because he's hard to draw. I love him so much, but he's hard to draw. And so again, I was just experimenting with some different Zephyrs. And then I was like, well, I'm figuring out Zephyr, how do I want to draw Storm? And so I was experimenting with different ways. Like, the thing with Storm is I know I want him to have the hair covering one eye because he's an emo boy, but I didn't know exactly how I wanted to render it. And I drew this one, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that. And so I drew just a couple more pages of that. Just some more experimenting. These are some stickers that people at the con gave me. Somebody gave me this little Mogalof, but I love it so much. And then someone also gave me this one. It's a little Persona 5 thing, but they redid the little blackmail letter with like different things relating to convention stuff, and it made me giggle. This is kind of Lapis and Leon's relationship in a nutshell, is that he comes to all her performances and she thinks he's her only fan. And she has no idea what his name is because she doesn't really talk to him. She just sees him all the time. But it's like, at this point, it's been months. I can't ask him what his name is now because then he'll realize that I haven't known his name for like the 4 months he's been hanging out at the tavern. And that's gonna be so embarrassing. And this is very relatable to me because this is actually a thing that has happened to me before. I've like gotten to know people, like I've been acquainted with people, and they introduced themselves to me at one point, and then I forgot their name, and I keep seeing them. I'm like, I can't ask them for their name because then they'll know that I forgot their name, but it's been months, and I don't know. Just my baby being very relatable. This was some MomoCon doodles. I was planning some potential merch for how I wanted to do with these characters. Just getting getting really ahead of myself, but you know, just kind of thinking about what I wanted to do. At this point, the story of this eventual novel is kind of broken up into two groups of characters. So there's the A-side group, which is Lapis is the main character, and then Zephyr and Storm are also there. We're gonna ignore the fact that these two are the same person. It's fine. And then we have the B-side, where Laz is the main narrative character, and then we also have Leon and Felix involved, and they have like fully separate stories that are gonna be interplaying with each other throughout the novel, and it's very fun. And then I was like, well, now I want to draw some more of my baby Vesper. And so I drew a lot of her. I was trying to rework Lapis's dress because I thought it was kind of boring. I did some thumbnails for, this was a thumbnail for that Garden of Glass piece I eventually finished. This was just like a little outfit swap because I was like, well, what if Lapis were the same kind of outfit that Felix did? And I think she would find it too constraining, but it is very cute. This is a little comic that I made just kind of at the end of MomoCon. I was just being very conflicted on whether or not I was going to do a video about it. I'm probably not at this point, just because I didn't take a lot of footage from it. At this point, it's been almost a month since that con, and I feel like I've forgotten all the best stuff that happened. And so I'm just like, I have other videos I want to do instead. And so I probably won't, but it was a fun con and I had a good time. I drew some more Storms, just trying to solidify and experiment with just like, okay, I gotta figure out exactly what face shape I want to do for him. I've got to figure out exactly how I draw his hair. I gotta just, this is me doing my reps. This is me doing, like, just trying to figure out this character by drawing them over and over and over again until they are worked firmly into my brain. And then at some point I was like, what if I drew, like, so many of Odysseus's songs I imagine relating to Laz. So what if I just fully crossed the streams? And so we have a Felix and we have some Lazes in whatever the hell this outfit is. I got some new highlighters at this point because I was hanging out at Michael's and I saw they had those like big chunky boy Stabilo highlighters for like $1 each because they were on clearance, and I was like, I keep seeing these and I feel like they would be uncomfortable to draw with, but I do want to experiment with them, and unfortunately I do like them because they go down so smoothly, but they are kind of hard to hold, so jury's still out on those, but I've enjoyed playing with them and I enjoy how they look when I use them to shade. So I was just playing around a little bit. I only had like a couple of colors, but I was playing, I was vibing. And then this is some more, what is the name of that song? 600 Strike. The back half of 600 Strike is so absolutely a Laz song. If I could take one song from that musical and just yoink it and make it just fully about Laz, it's 600 Strike, the back half of it specifically. Like that whole entire thing where it's just the showdown between Odysseus and Poseidon is so Laz coded. I love it. And so I had this doodle in my brain for weeks at this point, and I was like, I just need to draw it. So I was experimenting with drawing Laz in like this kind of form-fitting turtleneck because I was like, oh, that's kind of hot, that's kind of fun. And then I'm still playing around with these new highlighters, and so I tried drawing some Lapises with just like some emotions. When I'm bored and I'm art blocked, I just draw a character experiencing emotions. That's just how I do things here. This was a little character interaction I came up with that I thought was cute. It's Lapis. Lapis not being scared of heights at all and just will fully scale a building unprompted to get a better view and try and figure out where things are. Zephyr, meanwhile, is terrified of heights and hates it every single time that she does this. And he gives her so much shit about it. And she's just like, aw, he's scared of heights. That's so sweet and embarrassing for him. Here I was having a bad day and I took it out on my Blorbos. And I was working through some emotions, and I was like, well, what if I make Lapis work through some emotions instead? And then I felt better. I was having a bad couple of days, but I'm better now, but I was just, it was rough for a bit there. And then I have several pages of some Vespers, several pages of some baby. Look at her, she's a little baby, crazy little baby. She's so cute. She busted into my brain like the Kool-Aid Man, and she will not leave. She's not even gonna be in the Lapis and Lazuli novel. She's not gonna be a character until the Verity novel, but she just won't leave my brain, and I love her, and she's so fucking cute. It's just, she's a baby. She's a little baby. This was me doing some autobio comics. This was like, I was going through a couple weeks where I was just like kind of sad and depressed. And when I get sad and depressed, I self-isolate a lot, and I call it my sad girl hole. And so I was just this was like a repeated thing that kept happening, is I would be in my sad girl hole for a couple days, and I'd be like, okay, I think it's time to get out. And then as soon as I was starting to feel better, some other stupid or upsetting shit would happen, and I mentally, it's like I get hit in the face with a frisbee, and then I just have to go back in the sad girl hole for a few more days. And this happened for like 3 weeks straight, and I was just like, everything sucks and I'm sad. Sometimes you have to get the depression out of your body by drawing sad girl hole. Don't take that out of context. And then I was like, well, okay, I need to draw something that's not just emo comics. What if I tried and figured out Agatha's design? What if I just tried drawing some old ladies? And so I drew these Agathas, and then I spent like this whole spread trying to draw Agathas, and I still end up liking these the best. But these were just like some experiments. I was trying to draw her. If you're not familiar, Agatha is like, I mentioned her earlier, she's Lapis's employer, but also kind of grandmotherly figure. And she's chill and she's fun. And then I was like, hey, would Agatha and Leon know each other? Potentially. I don't know if this moment is gonna be canon, but I had the mental idea of it and it made me laugh. Here are just some more comics. I at this point was like, I've been neglecting Verity and Friends for so long. I feel like I want to draw them. And I'd had this kind of vision in my head of Zephyr/Storm probably spent some time at a magic academy. What if Darius was one of their teachers? And like, 'cause he worked at a magic academy for a while, and I just have this wonderful mental image of the two of them just like being little magic guys together before Darius eventually dies, and I'm just like, I want to draw that. I didn't get too far with this, but I love this mental image. And then I have some more scary ladies down here, and I was brainstorming. Don't worry about it. You'll see what that's about later. Some more Leons. I just hadn't drawn him in a while, and I wanted to draw him. And then I drew this around my birthday. I got a weighted blanket, and it's like 20 pounds, and I was like, yes, I am very snug. I can't get up. Every time I use it, I feel like I am pinned to the bed. I am stuck there. I am not fucking moving. And so I just had to draw a little comic about it. And I drew some more Vespers. I wanted to try and figure out like what her armor looked like. And I wanted, I wanted her to wear armor, and I wanted her to wear a big puffy skirt, but I wanted her to, be different enough from Verity that you wouldn't confuse the two of them. And so her skirt's a lot shorter, her armor's a little bit more like cutesy. I wanted it to look a little bit like flower petals, and so I was just kind of experimenting a little on this page. And then I was like, I haven't drawn little chibis in a while, so I want to draw some little chibis. So I drew that. I experimented with giving her like, because here her hair is down and she just has little Sailor Moon buns. I'm like, well, what if I gave her pigtails? No, I don't like that. What if I gave her little pigtails, but also the Sailor Moon buns? And I ended up deciding that I like this. And so every time I draw her from now on, she kind of has this hairstyle. It's a little bit chibi Usa, but you know what? I don't even care. I think it's cute. This was a thing that just kept happening to me because I shake most of my beverages just to like kind of mix them up before I pour them. And so I was like shaking a gallon of milk just to like, I also feel like, I know you don't necessarily need to shake milk, but I feel like shaking it makes it taste better. I don't know, it might just be a me thing, but I do it out of force of habit. But then I also have like, I buy my goldfish crackers in like these big gallon boxes, and I keep shaking them just from muscle memory. And I'm like, I don't need to shake crackers. What is wrong with me? This happened like 3 times in a week, and I was like, I need to draw that. And so then I drew some Vespers and some Verities, because I love my babies. This was me thinking, I just had a night where I was thinking about my old Pokemon gym leader phase. When I was in college, I was a gym leader and club officer for our school's Pokemon League. So basically we had 8 people in the club that were gym leaders. And on club meeting days, people would come to the club meetings and they would fight the gym leaders. And if you beat the gym leader in a Pokemon battle in your Pokemon games, then you would get like a little 2-inch button badge that the gym leader had designed. And so you'd walk around school and people would like put them on their school lanyards or on their bags and stuff. And so you could see like people's collections growing as they fought more of the school's gym leaders. The first year I did it, I was the fire type gym leader, but the second year I did it, I was the electric type gym leader. And I was just kind of thinking, what if I like designed my VTuber to be a Pokemon gym leader? And so I had like this kind of science theme. Back when I did this in college, my electric gym, I kind of had a science theme going with it. I had a little outfit that I wore. It's not exactly this, but it was kind of similar. And all of my Pokemon were nicknamed after periodic elements. And I just thought it was fun, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, I should draw that, so I did. I like the lightning bolt-shaped ponytail. I think that's probably the strongest part of this design. And I had a Mulga with my baby. And then we're back in the fucking building again. I was drawing some of the other characters, some of Vesper's, like Vesper's older sister and then her mom. And I was just drawing my little baby in some different hairstyles, different situations. I haven't come up with a name for the tiefling equivalent in this story, but whatever, it's very rare that like a tiefling is born with only a single horn, and so she kind of gets teased about it and people call her unlucky. There's in-story reasons for that I'm not going to get into because it's complicated world building shit that I'm still not fully 100% nailed down on. But I like to think that she's a little self-conscious about just having the one horn, and she takes it personally whenever people point it out. Some more just like Laz doodles. I had this mental image of like these like kind of puppet strings that were kind of controlling them, and them just kind of like ripping the puppet strings away and then being like, oh fuck, I fucked up. Laz has gone through some shit, and I'm not gonna go too into detail here. Just know that they have some shit in their backstory, and I wanted to draw them covered in blood. I drew this after a stream where viewers helped me name all my houseplants, assigned names of D&D characters to all my houseplants, and I was like, I already know which one's gonna be Darius. I have a snake plant and I named it Darius because it's prickly and dramatic. And I was like, yeah, Willow would do that. Willow would do that. She would name a plant after her friends based on the qualities of the plant and then give Darius some shit about it because he is prickly and dramatic. And so I just drew a couple of little doodles of them. I drew some verities. I feel like I've been neglecting my poor baby girl the entire time that I've been doing like Lapis novel brainstorming, but I still love her. She's still my baby and I still want to draw her a lot. And then this is the last full spread. We have some more. These are just like some song lyrics I associate with Lazuli. I did some more of like that kind of puppeteering imagery. I drew just like the rest of the cast of the novel. I was playing around with some hand shapes. And then this is some... we're gonna call it world building, I guess? Brainstorming? More on this later. This was just kind of me experimenting. Don't worry about who this is. I had an idea for a character. I don't know if it's gonna work out, but I drew some like very, very small, just like kind of preliminary doodles of them. And my takeaway is that they look too much like Liam from Cast Off. So I'm probably gonna rework their design a little bit. But there's a character who might do a thing in the store. I have no idea. It's still too early to say. But then we have our very last page. I drew little stars. That's all, folks. And then the final day. And then I just filled the rest of this with stickers. These are just some of my little flower stickers. And then these are various stickers that like people gave me at cons. This one came with a sticker book that I bought. And then the rest of these were given to me at conventions. And so I just kind of slapped them in here for funsies. And that is the end of this sketchbook. We did it! It took me an hour to go through all of it, my goodness. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and let voiceover star take over for the rest of the video because I need to go get some water, I'm thirsty. And that's it for this sketchbook tour, but now I've got a cool little announcement for all the folks who stayed until the end. Over the past few weeks, I scanned this entire sketchbook. Friend Leevely helped me clean up all the scans to get them nice and pretty, and now I've got a digital version up for download on my online store. If you want to get a closer look at this sketchbook in a glorious high-res PDF version, I'll have a link to that down in the description, plus the sketchbook from my previous sketchbook tour. That's right, there's 2 of them. And just for y'all, you can use the code VESPER to get 15% off your purchase of one or both of these art books. That code will last until the end of the month, so go snag them. If you'd like to see more sketchbook pages, these days I've been posting them on Patreon, available at all tier levels, so make sure to check out my page if you'd like to see those moving forward. Special thanks, as always, to my lovely patrons on the left, and a huge thank you to my video shout-out tier patrons. Jared, Holly, Mr. Donmatsu, Leaf, Alyssa Herzog, Felix Frenzy, and Neon Valkyrie. Support from my Patreon helps keep the lights on over here, so any and all pledges are greatly appreciated. Plus, you get a ton of rewards in exchange for your contribution. Links to all that is down in the description. With that said, that'll be it for this one. Fare thee well, friends, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!